Hey, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going over the latest update for Enhancement Shaman for 9.2. Pretty exciting updates that are coming out. I'll have a separate video about Mage Tower for the different Shaman specs that we've completed, as well as tier set reviews and some other things going into 9.2. There's a lot of things to look forward to. Things are looking up for Shaman. I have to say, the tier sets look pretty exciting. Even the updated Resto one's looking good. But today we're gonna talk about Enhancement Shaman. So let's go ahead and jump into the changes. I think Enhancement Shaman people might flock to Enhancement Shaman, especially in PvE, because Enhancement Shaman looks to be a class that's getting a little bit of a mix-up here. They've been very one-dimensional with Doom wins for a long time, then Witch Doctor Wolfbones included, but in general, very one-dimensional in terms of the spec, like how you set up your talents, etc. And with these changes that we'll run through now, it's actually looking up for Enhance. I think in PvE, particularly raid environment, it's gonna be pretty fun. I've done some testing on tier sets. We'll do a different video on that. It's actually looking pretty awesome. I have to say I'm pretty impressed. Even though some people are looking at some of the numbers being a little bit naysaying, I'm actually liking it. I like this fact, and I actually think for PvP, they are leaning us, especially with these changes, away from Doom wins potentially. I'm hoping. Because I really want it to, because Doom wins can be countered so easily in PvP, and it's depressing when you get disarmed for that 10-second window. Other than that, you have nothing. Now they're making our elemental damage basically going through the roof, as well as with some of the other changes that are going to be coming in. We'll go through it and we'll talk about how it could affect PvE and PvP. And I'm particularly excited about PvP. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Number one, they lower the mana cost of Fire Elemental, Primal Elemental. And some of these are general changes, but that's fine. Fire Elemental, Primal Elemental, that's fine. They probably did this because of how often you're going to have it up. Then Feral Spirits no longer occupy a totem slot. That's just cosmetic. No worry about that. General Shaman changes. Flame Shock, now max target cap at 6. Well, why would that be? Oh, well, that change is coming up. Frost Shock damage is being increased by 40%, which is awesome. One of the big things for Enhancement Shaman people have been talking about and dealing with for so long is, oh, I'm running out of button suppress. And a lot of times people feel like pressing Frost Shock was purely filler, boring, snoozer fest. Now they're increasing the damage, which is nice. And guess what? For Enhancement Shaman, for Mythic Plus, Hailstorm, 40% more damage. That's pretty good. That's an will be amplified, right? And now you can, don't nitpick the percentage. Let's just accept that we're getting an increase in that Frost Shock damage. Pretty good amount. 40% is kind of a lot. Now that's going to be counteracted for Ellie, for Ice Fury, but we'll talk about that later. Frankly, that's what it is, right? Now, one of the cool things I actually do like is that the Conduit, Elemental Conduit, which is the Venthyr Shaman Conduit, also causes Flame Shock crits, whether your direct damage or the damage over time reduces the cooldown of Chain Harvest. It's actually pretty cool that they made it inclusive of Flame Shock, especially with what's happening with Flame Shock for Enhance. I won't talk about Ellie here, I'll skip that, but basically, it's basically null and void anyway. The Enhancement Shaman change here is Lava Lash rank 2, a passive gained at level 22. Now also makes your Lava Lash spread Flame Shock to up to 3 targets within 8 yards in addition to the existing Lava Lash cooldown reduction. Now you might get pretty excited and say, well, hot diggity. Lava Lash is actually having a purpose. While Lava Lash has been doing could do even big damage in this patch, but now spreading Flame Shock, you know what this means. Maybe Fire Nova will be good. Everyone was so excited when Fire Nova re-entered the talent page for an Enhancement Shaman. No one has ever taken it though, because it is just another button, and spreading Flame Shock was so laborsome that no one would ever do it. Now there could be a good reason to. Now you're spreading it on targets every time you press that Lava Lash button. Pressing Fire Nova could be viable. Even though though you have to admit, they just buffed Hailstorm by giving Frost Shock 40% more damage. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how the damage works out. This is not on the PTR yet. I'm on the PTR right here, you can see in the background. I'm trying my best, but we're not quite there yet. Now, let's go ahead to the next change. So I'm excited about this. This is good for PvE. I think the spreading is good. In PvP, frankly, this could be bad for spreading Flame Shock onto targets that you don't want to, but to be honest, overall damage, Flame Shock still is going to do a good amount of damage, and spreading that onto pets, onto the the warriors and Ret Paladins that are going to be all over you, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not a game changer, but it's not bad. Now, Unruly Winds and these other conduits, I'll go ahead and I'll remind you what these conduits do in case you forgot, because you're playing a Windwalker right now because you just want to spin to win versus playing your beloved Enhancement Shaman, specifically in PvP. But let me just remind you what these are. Now, Unruly Winds, scaling changed from 20% at the lowest, 35% at the highest, to 15 and 50% at the highest. Now, you might forget what this was again because you're on that Windwalker, but let me just remind you, Unruly Winds is your Wind Fury weapon has an increased chance by X, up to 50% increased chance to trigger a third attack, which is pretty awesome. Getting that additional attack, additional chance, I believe, to proc that that Storm Strike, which will be important for everything else that we'll talk about later, especially in that tier set video testing. But that's very good. Okay, we're basically going to get more procs of our Wind Fury. Overall damage will go up because of this. Now, Magma Fist, again, you probably forgot. Lava Lash, because you're probably on your Arms Warrior. Kyrian Spearing people. Lava Lash has an additional 21% crit chance against enemies affected by your Flame Shock. Okay, well, now they're changing it to be, instead of 15 to 25%, it's now 12 to 37.2. I don't know why they went to 37.2, but I'll take it. That's almost 50% crit rate on your Lava Lash. That's not bad. And we'll talk about why that's especially not bad, because of a build I really like using Hot Hand. Now you have to remember, and the reason I like this one particularly for PvP is you have to remember that, like, everything in this game right now is just stacking percentile bonuses. And I think, my theory is that this is going to particularly help PvP, because I think there's going to be a build using Hot Hand, using Lava Actuators, using some of your wolves that you will have out a lot in PvP now, in my opinion. I think there's going to be a chance that you're going to be able to do some big blaster cannon of a Hot Hand hits. We'll talk about that in the tier list video. I don't know what happened, but I feel like Hot Hand might actually proc off of Wind Fury procs now. I've had times where Hot Hand's just procking like all of the time, which is so different than what my experience has been in 9.15 and 9.1 and etc., where Hot Hand never procced. So that's actually pretty exciting. And I think there might be a chance that we can stack some shit and it can be glorious. We'll have to see, but that proc game style is pretty much what PvP is about right now. Windwalkers, hello, and many other classes based on huge procs can just be devastating. So I'm actually really excited about this. It makes that devastating damage not a 25% chance to crit, but a 50% chance on top of everything else. It's pretty good. I think this is pretty prime. Now, next is Focus Lightning, another big one for PvP and PvE. And of course, Magma Fist, by the way, huge in PvE, huge. That's a big deal for single target. Focus Lightning, a huge deal for PvE, a huge deal for PvP. This is a little bit nuanced, so let's go through it a little bit slow. Number one, the scaling is going from 1% at the lowest to 4.5% at the highest, to 5% at the lowest, to 12% at the highest. Now, what does that mean? This 4.5 is turning into 12. Well, let's read the talent, or let's read the conduit here. Maelstrom Weapon increases the damage or healing of your next spell by an additional 3%. Right now, it's 3% per stack. That means if I have 5 stacks and I consume that to shoot someone with a lightning bolt, then that's giving me 5 times 3%, which is 15% increased damage on that lightning bolt. Okay, with that in mind, let's go ahead and go back to this. Now you're getting 12% per stack. 12% times 5, 60% increased damage. That's a big deal, especially if you start talking about the damage that's possible through Alley Blast. I'm foreshadowing on the build I'll show you in the other video, but now you're talking about a pretty big damage increase for these casted abilities. Now you might say, well, Tiqqle, 60% of a low number is still a low number. Well, you're not wrong, but I think it's going to be enough to make it worthwhile to cast abilities. And we'll talk about how you're going to be able to cast a ton of abilities with the tier sets in PvE, which is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Now, in PvP, like I mentioned, like now LA blasting could actually do a shitload of damage. Pardon my French. Lightning bolts, big damage. Healing surges. Yeah, I know, everybody. I know. Enhancement Shamans are going to be healing machines. And they're going to be instant cast, and they're going to be huge because it's going to go from getting this is like 20% increase, well, 20 whatever, 3.5 whatever it is, to 60%. So you're going to get 40% more potent heals coming out. My math is not 100% right on that, but that's the gist. Your heals will be stronger because of this, so that's also good for us. A lot of people won't be happy about that, but it is what it is. Now, and that will also scale with other things. Keep that in mind. That's the other thing, is like this scaling can ramp up and compound with other things. So Earthen Spike, okay, now you're getting another percentage multiplier here. So just things to keep in mind as we're thinking about ways that Enhancement Shaman can not just be a Doomswind machine gun or attempted machine gun in PvP, and in PvE, we're actually our casts are gonna be nice. It's gonna be cool. And it's already, the flow is already feeling so much better on the PTR. It just, to me personally, feels so much better and is a ton of fun with the 2-set 4-set. I'm so happy those sets are back. I mean, regardless of what they are, I'm just glad that the basis of like a tier set thing is back in the game. Now, the last one is Chilled to the Core, scaling from 21% to 35% to 30 to 72% on the upper end. Now, let me show you what this is, because you probably forgot, as you're probably on your Ret Paladin Divine Tolling kids. I don't know. Okay, so here it is. Frost Shock has a 27% chance to grant you 2 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. Well, that's nice. This was almost never taken. To be honest, this was almost never taken in the current PvE situation because you were always like having enough Maelstrom stacks for the most part. But now if you bring this in with increased Frost Shock damage, with increased damage from Focused Lightning, you start to see that maybe we're going to be trying to get those spenders going as fast as possible. Well, why would you do that, Tiqqle? I already got enough Maelstrom stacks. Well, do you? Because the 2-set 4-set, if you take a little gander here, is it's very involved with Maelstrom. It's spending Maelstrom Weapon has a 3% chance to, per stack spent, to summon a Feral Spirit for 9 seconds. And then your Feral Spirit's attacks have a 20% chance to trigger Stormbringer, which resets your Storm Strikes, which lets you generate more Maelstrom, which lets you spend more Maelstrom. It's a vicious cycle that's pretty fun. So I'm actually pretty excited about these changes. And if you look across the whole board here, the good news is they have almost buffed every nature talent in the repertoire of an Enhancement Shaman. Now, I'll tell you why that's good. They didn't buff, the thing they didn't buff here was they didn't buff Lava Lash, which they've done in the past. They haven't buffed Storm Strike, bummer. They didn't technically buff Flame Shock, but they let it spread. But they buffed all our casted spells and our Frost Shock, which is great. And those are all nature skills, which is pretty interesting. We might have an opportunity for Enhancement Shamans to stack Mastery, because that will increase all that damage. And on top of that, I think you're gonna see most people go Night Fae, because the Night Fae racial is so, it's related to the wolves. I haven't tested out double legendary and any of that stuff yet, but I don't even think you can. But that legendary, coupled with Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones, you're going to be a machine gun of a wolfman. You're gonna be basically a wolfman. And that's gonna be pretty cool in PvE. That'll be very cool gameplay, especially as you go into Elemental Spirits. This is what I mean. I personally think Enhancement Shaman is going to, as long as other classes don't get giga buffed, I think Enhancement Shamans are gonna be one of the most fun specs, and I'm hoping we're gonna be at the top and like in the meta for Mythic Plus because of that Frost Shock buff. I mean, with Hailstorm, hello, and potentially with Fire Nova. But also in Raid, we're gonna be really fun. And as long as Wind Fury isn't bugged like it has been in the past, I think it's a no-brainer. I think Enhancement Shaman are gonna have a raid spot, and my only worry is that in PvP, we're gonna be forgotten again. And I don't care what you say. I know there's turbos that have done really well. There's 3K Enhancement Shamans. For most people, it's still been so challenging. So I hope that this will define a new meta for Enhancement Shamans, of being more hybrid, and that hybridness of, and I'm talking hybrid melee caster, is actually useful. Because Enhancement Shaman, in my opinion, is one of the more complicated specs. It's not easy. It's not a face roll, other than like during your Doom Winds windows if people don't know how to counter you. Otherwise, like, it's actually it's a more complicated, less understood, unique spec. I think one of the most in the entire game. With the exception, I think Feral is also a super complicated, more complicated, unique spec. A lot of other damage dealers, no offense, plate wearers out there, but you know, you have a type. So with that being said, those are the changes. That's what I'm looking forward to. I expect Night Fae PvE Shamans. I expect still Venthyr PvP Shamans. How do you get away from Chain Harvest? Especially when your Chain Harvests are going to be even buffed even more given Focus Lightning. So with that being said, guys, that's the review of the patch notes. I want to do a quick video on that. I will be doing a tier set video. I will get my Mage Tower guides out as fast as I can. I kind of went through those pretty quickly though. So like, I won't have the best tips and tricks. I'll just show you the strategies I use. So make sure to come back to the channel for that. And if you do like the videos, I really appreciate the support. Hit that sub button, that like button, and we'll see you on stream every day. Twitch.tv/TiqqleDis, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you like G Fuel, code Tiqqle. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Love you. Goodbye.